I gotta get off this airplane, but I don't want them to see me. Do we have that Pentagon invisibility cloak? Can I borrow that? No, that's top secret, Kamala. You can't borrow that. Is she answering any questions? Here's the question.
Madam Vice President, are you worried about Trump?
Totally freaked because she's incompetent. This is Kamala, and she is now in Philadelphia, and you can see she's looking a little bit nervous over there. You know, of course you got to adjust your hair and all that, but when you do it right when the press comes out like this, kind of makes you feel like you're hiding, right? Like you're kind of doing one of these things like, I got to get off this airplane, but I don't want them to see me. Do we have that Pentagon invisibility cloak? Can I borrow that? No, that's top secret, Kamala. You can't borrow that. She's, all right, let me just try this. And I think it's a subliminal thing, right? It could be her adjusting her hair, but it certainly feels like there's a lot of that going on from her, kind of waving her hand. And this is her walking off, avoiding the press all the time. So here's Kamala. Is she answering any questions? Doesn't really want to look at the press. Here's the question.
Madam Vice President, are you worried about Trump?
Yeah, she's freaked. Totally freaked because she's incompetent. The person who's going to be handling the debate tonight is this woman, Lindsay Davis. She's going to be here saying that she's going to host a free and fair debate or something. David Muir, both of these people hate Trump, right? They don't communicate it as aggressively, let's say, like Joe Brzezinski does, but they definitely have disdain for him. But anyways, they're going to be there tonight. They're going to also recognize David Muir, who hosts the most watched news program in television. Really? World News Tonight. Wow. But they may be less familiar with his co-moderator, Lindsay Davis. Now, those who have worked with Davis throughout her career think she's up for the challenge. Martha Raddatz, who's known Davis, says she's amazing. She's going to keep total control. All right. Now, Kamala has been preparing for this for quite some time. We haven't seen or heard from her since that interview with her companion governor with Dana Bash, but Rick Santorum was out. He was explaining, you know, she's kind of been in the bunker prepping for this thing for quite a while. And what's the deal with that, right? Everybody does a little bit of debate prep, but is she competent or capable? Why is so much effort being focused on preparing if she's the historic candidate who is so competent and capable as they claim she is?
Someone like Tulsi Gabbard on his team preparing him tonight to help Trump.
First off, it's great that he's doing debate prep and that Tulsi is there to coach him, and if you will, on what Harris is going to be like. And obviously, the point of criminal justice reform, which Donald Trump has actually a very good record on, is another issue that appeals to Black and brown people in particular who have higher rates of incarceration, men in particular. So this is an area of opportunity for Trump to brandish his credentials in an area that would normally be a Democratic stronghold.
Yeah, Senator, the big rule tonight is there will be a microphone muting, just like we saw in the first presidential debate back in June between Trump and Biden.
Even though she tried to change those rules.
Advantage. And there's reports that Harris's team, they're scrambling because they were hoping they would be able to get the mics unmuted.
I'm
because
speaking.
Then she could hopefully bait him and then do the whole, we remember her saying, well, I'm speaking. And so she's not going to be able to do that. Obviously, this will be an advantage to Trump. How do you think that, you know, obviously this is going to play out? Because, again, this is not going to be like back in 2016.
Don't underestimate the 5 days of practice. I mean, they will be practicing that muted mic in these debate preps, and they'll be practicing all of her answers to every question that conceivably she's going to get. And I'm sure that she's gotten some intel, not of the questions particularly, but
yeah, I bet she
maybe
does.
The subject areas that are going to be covered. And there's ones that are just logical that are going to be put forward. And she'll have prepared answers. She won't be on a teleprompter, but she will have had 5 days to memorize answers. That's an advantage to her. The other thing is, yeah, they won't have the mics open, but there'll be plenty of opportunities during her answer time and rebuttal time to take shots at Trump. So there'll be more interaction than there was under Biden because Biden just simply wasn't present.
Yeah, because Nancy Pelosi put in that little shot into his pre-debate IV. And you're like, oh, no, this is the good stuff, Joe. Yeah, this will make you really energetic. She put it in there. It was like Xanax or something. He's like just zoned out there on the debate stage. So yeah, she'll have a bunch of canned answers, but I don't think she's very good at that, to be perfectly honest with you. She should have had a bunch of canned answers with the interview with Dana Bash. That didn't go over that well. And the reason we know that that did not go over that well is because the media was saying, she survived. She did fine. Okay, it's it. So shut up. Okay, she's already done debates. She doesn't need to do any more. And that is the same participation that we can expect, I think, moving forward. In fact, this is Mr. Coons, Chris Coons. He's also explaining that, look, well, I don't know why she's not talking to you guys. Trump's done dozens of interviews. Why is she avoiding the press there, Chris?
When I asked her whether there was any explanation for how difficult it's been, I don't know how many extemporaneous press briefings former President Trump has had in the last 40 or 45 days, but it's dozens, and we're exactly at zero still for Vice President Harris. And I asked her, and she said, well, she's been really busy. But we've seen some crazy stuff in retail outlets and, some funny
spice
moments
shops,
and things.
where she goes to anti-Republican spice shops to talk about unity.
Plenty of stuff, but not that. As co-chair of the Harris campaign, were you involved in that decision to basically keep her away from speaking and extemporaneously? Senator, what was the thinking
Joe,
there?
as you can well imagine, I'm not her daily scheduler, but I served with her in the Senate. I've worked with her as vice president. I know her to be smart and capable.
Why do it then? Do you have an explanation for why she's been kept under wraps like that? Because it just raises people's suspicions and people really wonder what's the problem.
Look, what I find concerning is that when Donald Trump gives those completely unscripted, long, rambling interviews, the things he talks about are unhinged.
Okay, so it's like Trump has a bad answer every now and then, and they're like, wow, that's terrible. Well, put your candidate out there. She doesn't say anything. And when she does, she copy and paste from Joe Biden's policies and then says that she's the candidate of change. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, Ted Cruz is facing a very close race in Congress right now, but you see that he was also out saying, this is crazy. Kamala is not a candidate of change, okay? She's trying to race to the middle. She has the benefit of having avoided a primary because their plan was a coup to avoid a primary. They didn't let RFK participate. They sued to stop Jill Stein and RFK and Nicole Shanahan. And now Kamala is going to be this candidate and campaign of change? And the Democrats are so dense that they're not observing the reality. She's the sitting vice president.
What Kamala Harris is trying to do here is really bizarre, which is she's trying to run as the change candidate. She's trying to treat Donald J. Trump like he is the incumbent president. And that's utterly disconnected from reality. She is the current administration. And normally the way VPs run is they say, hey, we did a great job. The president did a great job. Let's continue the successes of the administration I was the VP in. Well, the problem is Biden and Harris, their policy record is a complete train wreck. And so you look at her convention speech, you look at that interview, the entire time she's saying, well, I would do this to secure the border. It's like, well, if you would do that, why don't you do that? You're in charge right now today. And so everything she's saying she would do, the way I would put it is actions speak louder than words. We know what she'll do in the border because she's been border czar for 4 years, and we've had 11.5 million people invade this country because she refuses to enforce the law. We know what she'll do on energy because she and Joe Biden have been in charge for 4 years, and they've waged a war on energy that has driven the cost of gasoline and everything else through the roof. And so I hope tomorrow night in the debate that Trump really prosecutes her record versus his record, because on almost every measure, the lives of the American people were much better when Trump was president. We had a Republican Senate, a Republican House, than they are now under the Biden-Harris record.
And I think a lot of people are starting to realize that. I think that Kamala might have been a new, exciting candidate because nobody really knew who she was. I mean, think about that. A lot of people really have a hard time naming even their governor or their senators, right? Let alone the vice president, the president generally, who can name the secretary of state, right? These are kind of difficult things to name unless you are in politics, as we all are here. But there is probably a sizable portion of the Democratic Party who was looking at Kamala like she was a new figure. Now they're learning, oh, wait, she's the vice president. She's already been in charge, and we're going to get to learn from her. She seems like a fake candidate who has no consistency, has shifted her positions, even though she claims her values haven't moved at all. But do they care? Okay, that's the other part of this. Do they care? Do they even value consistency in their candidates? Do they even value values is a question that many people are asking now. So great point from Ted Cruz.